Tonight, breaking news as we come on the air, the deadly shooting on campus in Las Vegas. Authorities say multiple victims. The image is coming in now, the shooting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Tonight, several victims have died at UNLV. The gunman is also dead. For some, final exams were underway just before the holiday break. And what we have just learned about the victims tonight. Also this evening, the deadly shooting rampage in Austin, Texas. Multiple locations, the rampage lasting 8 hours. Several dead tonight and the wounded. Matt Rivers reporting from Texas with late news on the suspect under arrest. Slammed with a series of storms tonight, the U.S. Coast Guard rescuing families from their flooded homes by helicopter amid raging floodwaters in the west. Several states on alert tonight with 2 more storms now coming. And in the Northeast, heavy rain and snow now on the way. Rob Marciano is here. The Israel-Hamas war. Tonight, the Israelis say they have Hamas's leader surrounded now in an underground bunker. And this evening here, the leaked audio revealing the anger in a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. Families of the hostages furious. James Longman in Israel. Back in the U.S., the Justice Department tonight charging 4 Russian soldiers with war crimes, accused of torturing an American in Ukraine near the start of the Russian invasion. Amid Donald Trump's threats of retribution on the campaign trail if he's elected president again, the former president is asked about the warnings from some that Trump would act like a dictator. Asked would he promise Americans he would never abuse his power for retribution? Tonight, his answer, and the Biden campaign now arguing do not take this lightly. And will Trump's Republican opponents take this on when they debate? And tonight here, celebrating Norman Lear.
Guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days.
The creative genius forever changing the face of American television.
Well, we're moving on up to the side.
Addressing the social and political issues of the time with humor. Tonight, some of those famous scenes and Norman Lear on who inspired the role of Archie Bunker.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Wednesday night. We do begin tonight with the deadly shooting in Las Vegas on the campus of UNLV. The urgent alerts sent to students from campus security saying this is not a test, urging students to run, hide, fight. At this hour, ABC News has learned multiple victims are dead. The gunman is also dead after police engaged the suspect. The first calls at 11:45 a.m. local time there, law enforcement rushing to the scene. The shooter reported to be at the business school building and later at the student union nearby. Officers from dozens of agencies wearing body armor on the campus, the now familiar sight. Students with their hands in the air, heavily armed officers running past them. Students describing the fear, their calls to parents and family. Many of these students were in final exams just before the holiday break, set to go home to be with their families. ABC's Will Carr leading us off tonight.
The deadly gunfire erupting just before noon. Reports of an active shooter on the campus of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Rescue 18, be advised, shots fired in the area.
A swarm of tactical officers racing to the student union and the business school. At least 3 people killed, and a 4th victim rushed to the hospital. School officials urging students to run, hide, fight.
At the time, I was evidently terrified, scared for my life.
Just off campus, anxious parents waiting for word.
They're hunkered down into a classroom in the dark and just waiting. My heart's breaking for those students who could be hurt.
One witness telling us the gunfire was shaking the walls. Students inside locking doors and taking cover, waiting for police.
You're calling your family, you're calling people, you're texting your friends like, hey, I love you guys. I don't know what's happening, like, because he could burst through the door any minute.
We were evacuated out by police holding guns. We all walked out with our arms up. When we were walking out, we saw one of the windows had been shot through.
Police rushing hundreds of students to safety while urging those on campus to wait for an all clear. Joe Muller from our affiliate KTNV is on campus.
We're hearing loudspeakers from the campus still. They're saying students need to stay in place. So as far as we know, some students are still inside of their classrooms.
After nearly 3 hours of chaos, police announcing the suspect was deceased, killed by police.
If it hadn't been for the heroic actions of one of those police officers who responded, there could have been countless additional lives taken. Armed confrontation of the suspect by law enforcement stopped the suspect's further actions.
David, authorities say the threat to the public is over, and now the big question is why? Who is the suspect and what is the motive? The FBI and the ATF are on the scene. David.
Will Carr leading us off with late reporting here. Will, thank you. Now to Texas and the deadly shooting rampage there, lasting for hours, multiple locations, leaving at least 6 people dead, multiple people injured at several sites in Austin and in San Antonio. The first reported incident at a high school in Austin, a resource officer shot there. When it was over, 6 people were killed at 3 different locations. And tonight, police now confirming 2 of the dead are the suspect's parents. ABC's Matt Rivers in San Antonio tonight.
Tonight, new details in a violent shooting spree across 2 cities in South Texas that left at least 6 dead and 3 injured, including 2 officers. Police now say the suspect, 34-year-old Shane James Jr., first killed his parents, Shane and Phyllis James, in their San Antonio home before 9 a.m. on Tuesday.
So the best that we can put together, possible time of death is sometime between 10 p.m. and 9 a.m. that next morning, from what we're able to determine a large caliber handgun.
James then driving more than an hour to Austin, opening fire on a school district officer in a campus parking lot before 11 a.m. That officer shot in the leg, surviving. About an hour later, officers racing to a home nearby after repeated calls of shots fired, finding a man and woman fatally wounded. Around 5 p.m., a man riding a bike in the neighborhood also shot. His injury non-life-threatening.
Austria Loop, complainant states the subject kicked down the back door.
Then 2 hours later, police responding to a home burglary less than 2 miles away. An officer then exchanging gunfire with the suspect. The officer shot multiple times, but surviving. Inside that home, officers finding the bodies of 2 more people.
They believe it's the same suspect who shot the ASD officer earlier.
Authorities then taking James into custody after a car chase that ended in a crash. The bodies of James's parents found later that evening in their home in San Antonio.
And David, authorities say that the suspect has a history of mental health issues and violence within his own family. But as to why he went on this alleged shooting spree, they say they're still investigating, but they do not yet know. David?
All right, Matt Rivers reporting from Texas tonight for us. Matt, thank you. We turn now to the major storms in the Northwest and the U.S. Coast Guard rescuing families from their flooded homes by helicopter. And tonight, 2 more storms coming. Many rivers at flood stage, including Washington's Stillaguamish River. Authorities investigating the deaths of at least 2 people in the region now. The Coast Guard conducting those high water rescues. You can see the images here, lifting one person from the top of their flooded vehicle. ABC's Mola Lenghi tonight from Washington State.
Tonight, rivers raging across the Pacific Northwest as relentless storms pound the region.
Nearly a foot of rain in less than 24 hours, and that's after a weekend deluge. And this is the result. Acres and acres of flooded roads, bridges, yards, and homes.
During the storm's peak, the Coast Guard using a chopper to rescue 5 people, including 4 from a home trapped by floodwaters in Wahkiakum County near the Oregon border, hoisting them one by one to safety. Officials investigating at least 2 deaths reported in the region so far. In Snohomish County, Curtis Babb's home inundated with water.
At the sliding glass door on the side of my house, I could see the water pressing against the glass like it was an aquarium almost.
Families now cleaning up with more storms on the way.
Well, David, that behind me is Snoqualmie Falls, as you can see and hear, still raging as another storm moves in tonight, and even more behind that one, David.
This is really something that can't catch a break. Mola Lenghi there in Washington. Mola, thank you. Let's get right to senior meteorologist Rob Marciano. He's live in San Jose, California tonight, also feeling this. And Rob, of course, there is still more coming.
There are at least 2 more storms, David, in the Pacific, and that stalled front that was across Washington and Oregon, now that has spread south here into the San Francisco Bay Area and pushing up into the Sierra, into British Columbia. You see it here on the radar scope, but there are the 2 other ones, the parade of storms in the Pacific. Storm number 2, that's a cross-country trigger, and it's cold core, so it brings more heavy rain tomorrow, but also lowers the snow level, so that should help stabilize at least some of the river rises. That snow will be heavy, though, through the Cascades and Bitterroots. 1 to 2 feet at mountain pass levels, extending into Utah, the Colorado Rockies, and then severe storms in the south on Saturday. The heavy rain pushing up through the Ohio, rain amping across the Appalachians on Sunday onto the East Coast for a very messy Sunday into Monday. David?
Rob Marciano in San Jose tonight. Thank you, Rob. We're going to turn now to the war between Israel and Hamas. Tonight, the Israeli military now saying they have surrounded the leader of Hamas in Gaza in an underground bunker. Also this evening here, the leaked audio revealing the anger in a meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The families of hostages furious with him. James Longman in Israel again tonight.
Tonight, Israel unleashing over 250 airstrikes on targets in Gaza, with troops surrounding the home of Hamas's leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, who they say is hiding out in an underground headquarters. Israeli forces have battled into the heart of Khan Yunis, the biggest city in southern Gaza, and where thousands have sought refuge from the north. Nearby, a chilling sight as Israeli planes drop leaflets on a graveyard for the war's victims. The IDF directing some to leave, others to stay.
The leaflet that has been dropped in your neighbourhood is telling you to stay where you are. It's not telling you to move.
We don't want to move if we don't have to move. I don't actually know how far I can trust the Israeli army.
Meanwhile, some hostage families accuse Benjamin Netanyahu of inaction. Leaked audio from a tense meeting provided to an Israeli media outlet revealing their anger at the Prime Minister. One woman saying, quote, "All you're thinking about is collapsing Hamas. Give them back, whoever they want, and bring everybody back." Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar is Israel's most wanted man. He could be somewhere near Khan Yunis, but so are hundreds of thousands of civilians. David.
James Longman in Tel Aviv for us tonight. James, thank you. Tonight, as the war in Ukraine rages on, the U.S. Justice Department now charging 4 Russian soldiers with war crimes, accusing them of torturing an American during Russia's invasion. They say the man was living in a small village with his Ukrainian wife when U.S. officials say he was abducted by 2 Russian officers and 2 lower-ranking troops, who then allegedly brutalized the American over 10 days. All of the accused are fugitives. The American has been evacuated from Ukraine. His identity is being protected. We turn now to the race for president, and amid Donald Trump's threats of retribution while on the campaign trail if he's elected president again, the former president was asked about the warnings from some that Trump would act like a dictator if elected. Asked, would he promise Americans he would never abuse his power for retribution? Tonight, his answer. The Biden campaign arguing, do not take this answer lightly. And will Trump's Republican opponents address this in the debate? Here's Rachel Scott.
Just hours after President Biden said he's not sure he'd run again if Donald Trump wasn't in the race, that democracy itself is at stake, Trump on Fox News deflecting questions about whether he would rule like a dictator and about this pledge he made to his supporters.
For those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
Fox host Sean Hannity asking Trump about concerns he would be a dictator. Trump not rejecting that description, instead turning the focus to immigration.
Under no circumstances, you are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill.
That's
drill,
not. That's
drill.
That's not.
No, no.
That's not retribution.
I'm going to be. You know, he keeps. We love this guy. He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, "No. Other than day one."
The Biden campaign responding, saying that Donald Trump will act and behave like a dictator, and he confirmed that. Tonight on the debate stage, only one candidate, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, taking on Trump for those comments. The rest of the candidates muted. David.
Rachel Scott reporting on the campaign trail. Rachel, thank you. Tonight here, we celebrate Norman Lear, a creative genius who changed the face of American television. We learn Lear has died at the age of 101.
Guys like us, we had it made. Those were the days.
Norman Lear and the shows and characters he created revolutionized television.
No! Do that, you could hit a nerve there and make somebody go cockeyed.
A groundbreaking writer, director, producer who used humor to tackle the political and social issues of the time.
Now I suppose you're going to tell me that the black man has had the same opportunity in this country as you?
More. He's had more. I didn't have no million people out there marching and protesting to get me my job.
No, his uncle got it for him.
There was All in the Family and Archie Bunker, a bigot who in many ways was still beloved, set in his ways in a changing time.
Black people have arrived. They're here. I ain't letting them in.
Archie Bunker, Norman Lear once told George, was based in part on Norman's own father.
Is it really true that your dad came up with Archie's signature line?
What, stifle? Oh, meathead. You're a meathead dead from the neck up.
You are a meathead. A meathead, dead from the neck up.
So that's real life.
Yes, that's real life.
And stifle is real life.
Stifle, Jeanette, stifle yourself. Right into her face.
Stifle that, will you?
And then I would pick it off the twin.
Will you stifle that?
The stories were bold and controversial and new to television.
Well, we're moving on up to the east side.
The Jeffersons.
Now, just because we are moving up is no reason why we have to look down on people.
I'm not telling you to look down on nobody. I'm just saying to shift your angle and let them start looking up to you.
Their success story and all that came with it.
You live in this apartment, right?
Uh-huh.
And you got an apartment in this building, too?
Yes, that's right.
Well, how come we overcame and nobody told me?
Before that, there was Maude.
Maybe we don't remember which of us decided to get the divorce, but there is no doubt who decided we should get married. My mother.
And then Sanford and Son, too.
What do we pay the government that money for?
What for? For security, Pop? For defense.
We were robbed twice last year. Now, where were the soldiers?
Come on, Pop. Your tax money also goes to poverty pockets.
And it comes from poverty pocket.
Norman Lear was born in New Haven, Connecticut in 1922 to a salesman and a homemaker. And he would talk often over the years about what inspired his scripts.
The only thing I knew to write about was what I saw around me. There's nothing that was ever said on any of these shows that you might not hear in a playground. It's America.
Tonight, his family saying Norman Lear died peacefully overnight, surrounded by his family at his home in Los Angeles. The legendary and groundbreaking producer who at times had well more than 100 million Americans watching his shows.
What was it like to know that on almost any given night someone was watching a show that you helped inspire?
I remember flying over the country in the early years of all of that at night and looking down and thinking, wherever I see a light, it just might be possible that I helped to make somebody laugh.
An extraordinary impact. When Norman Lear turned 100, he wrote in an essay for the New York Times about the nation. He wrote, "To be honest, I'm a bit worried that I may be in better shape than our democracy is." Tonight, remembering Norman Lear. When we come back here, the news on RSV and flu in this country, what they're now seeing, and Time's Person of the Year tonight. Tonight, cases of RSV, COVID, and flu are on the rise across the country. 11 states, New York City, and Puerto Rico, in fact, are all reporting high or very high levels of respiratory illness. RSV hospitalizations rising among children under 4, and especially infants under 6 months. We've been telling you about that new shot now available for infants. It's now in short supply in many places. The government now working to make additional doses available. When we come back here tonight, Time revealing its Person of the Year and what she says about her critics. Something other than shake it off. Time magazine naming its Person of the Year Taylor Swift. Her Eras tour setting records, boosting local economies in the country, and making her a billionaire. And on her critics, she tells Time there's no point trying to defeat your enemies because, quote, trash takes itself out every single time. When we come back here tonight, the whole town and the Christmas tree. Could they pull it off?
ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, sponsored by Pacific Life, creating financial security for more than 150 years.
Finally tonight here, the Christmas tree and one beloved neighbor. Tonight, in a town named Mentor-on-the-Lake, Ohio, the story of one very special Christmas tree and the beloved neighbor they wanted to celebrate. Gene Ayers and his family have lived here for 70 years. The giant 40-foot tree right in Gene's front yard. He planted it himself, and he always planned to finally decorate it for Christmas. So when the town heard that Gene was in the hospital, they wanted to surprise him. With his daughter Karen leading the charge, the entire town coming together, the lights, the ornaments, renting a bucket lift with donations. And Gene was watching when the whole town lit the tree.
3, 2, 1.
Tonight here, Gene's family.
Hi, David. Hi, David.
Daughters Karen on the left, Lori on the right, and right in the middle, grandson John. In fact, it was John who gave his grandfather that small tree back in 1991.
And the tree was brought home in first grade. It was this tall. They planted that tree together, and then they watched it grow.
The entire town happy to pitch in, including the police sergeant.
Hi, David.
Sergeant Scott Daubenmeyer.
City of Mentor Lake, Ohio has always been a great community to be a part of, especially when the neighbors, family, friends, all come together to make one man's dream come true.
And of course, right here tonight, Gene feeling much better with his wife, Helen.
Hi, David.
Hi, David.
Grateful for his family, his community, and grateful for that tree.
I'm thanking all the neighbors for the help with the tree and stuff, and it's great. And it's an early Christmas for us.
You're looking good, Gene, and so is that tree. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.